Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I am Dr. Milena. I am an endocrinologist of Blue Care Integrated Diabetes Center. And I was invited to talk about a chronic disease and lifestyle. So I prepared a short presentation, and after we can go for Q&A section. So please don't be shy and ask me whatever you want, and I try to do my best to answer everyone. Okay, so let's start. First, what is the definition of inflammation? Especially now that we have the COVID, the pandemic, COVID pandemic. We talk about this chronic disease, inflammation. So we must understand that we have two types of inflammation. One is acute inflammation. For example, when we have flu, COVID infection is acute. Our body responds this very quickly and try to defend and heal itself. This is acute inflammation. And we have chronic inflammations. These chronic inflammations leads to chronic disease. For example, diabetes is a chronic disease. Many types of cardiovascular disease, heart attack and stroke, they are considered chronic inflammation. Some types of rheumatologic disease and even cancer. So the body responds differently for acute and chronic inflammations. We must remember that 3 out of 5 people around the world can die from a chronic inflammation. We call this chronic disease. And I'm gonna give some kind of examples of these chronic inflammations and some ways that we can fight this inflammation. Type 1 diabetes is not so common. We have basically 2 types of diabetes. I'm going to start with diabetes because it's a common disease and is a chronic disease. Worldwide, we have around 30% of the population with diabetes. I'm certain that each one of you knows someone with diabetes. So basically, we have 2 types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. We have others diabetes, for example, gestational, genetic, autoimmune disease, latent autoimmune disease, but we must focus which are the more common, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is autoimmune disease. So what it does mean having an autoimmune disease? Let's come back to COVID again, because now it's a trend, anyone who wants to talk about COVID. So remember that a couple of months ago, we have some tests to do about antibodies. So many patients, they say, doctor, I want to check my antibodies against COVID. Every time that we have antibodies against something is to heal, to defend our body. So we have COVID infection and our body produces antibodies to kill the virus. Okay, this is good. So it's not autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease is when our body produces antibodies to kill itself. So type 1 diabetes is a disease that the body produces antibodies against the pancreas, and the pancreas starting destroy itself. So we call this autoimmune disease, the body producing antibodies to destroy itself. We can have so many types of autoimmune disease, rheumatologic disease, Hashimoto, for example, for thyroid is another autoimmune disease. Okay? For type 1, the pancreas produces insulin. So what is the function of the insulin? Every time that we eat something, our body produces insulin and breaks down the food. The insulin takes this glucose from the food and puts inside our body to give the energy. So the glucose from the food must be inside our body, inside our brain, inside our heart, so we can live. If we don't have insulin, if our pancreas is destroyed, we don't have any kind of insulin, we have high sugar, we call this hyperglycemia, inside the bloodstream. So we're gonna measure the glucose is around 300, 400. This is considered hyperglycemia and is caused by the pancreas destruction. Okay? Usually type 1 is associated with other autoimmune disease. For example, celiac disease, Hashimoto with the thyroid disease. And the treatment for type 1 until now, September 2022, is insulin treatment. Okay? There is no patient with type 1 without insulin. This insulin can come in different ways, can be pen, can be the pen injections, can be the pumps. And even nowadays, there's some insulin, which is called Afrezza. We can just inhalate the insulin, okay? But mainly is the injection insulin. So type 1 is one type of chronic disease. So takes months and years, and there's no cure. There is no remission of type 1 diabetes. The next one is type 2. Which is more common, definitely, than type 1, and is totally different of pathophysiology. It's different cause. So type 1, we see that it was autoimmune disease. Type 2 is related with insulin resistance. So type 1, there is no insulin production. Type 2, the body produces insulin enough, but this insulin does not act properly inside the body. So we have opposite. We have very high levels of insulin. We call this hyperinsulinemia or insulin resistance. I'm certain also that someone already heard this name. And the main cause is the obesity, the obesity and the overweight. These are the main causes of type 2 diabetes. When we have someone who is overweight or obese, usually they have this visceral tissue, is the fat surround the belly, surround the belly button. So higher this visceral tissue is higher the insulin resistance. And the treatment, we must focus to improve the action of this insulin. And it's involved the lifestyle, so improve the diet, the exercise, and of course, some medications to lose weight, some medications to control the hyperglycemia, the high level blood glucose levels. Okay? Then I'm gonna come back a little bit later about type 2 because I'm certain that someone gonna keep asking about which is a very common disease. So the treatment of type 2 is different. Some patients, they might use insulin, but we must focus on the diet, exercise, and we always avoid insulin, well, especially nowadays that we have a very modern medications for type 2. And we just let insulin as like the last stage. And another very common chronic disease is obesity. You know, many patients, they come to me and say, Dr. Milena, I am overweight or I'm obese, but I'm healthy. My blood tests are normal. So I'm fat, I'm obese, but I'm healthy. Unfortunately, we cannot say that. We must face that obesity is a disease and must be faced as a disease. Right? Is not laziness. I get very, very mad when some patient come to me and say, oh, it's my fault because I'm lazy, I don't do exercise. Every day, we discover different causes of obesity. And if you are overweight or obesity, you can have more than 200 complications. We call these comorbidities. For example, fat liver, or high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, joint problems. So it's not a laziness, it's a disease and must be treated as disease. Just a quick review about what is this BMI, which is right here, is body mass index. I'm certain that everyone knows that. Is the way that we classify the obesity. Then later, if you want, I can explain this better. But it's a calculation that we can put in Google and find this very easy, and takes the weight and the height and gives an index, a number, and we can classify. So above 30 is considered obese, and the normal range is maximum 25. And we know that the lifespan drops dramatically if the BMI is higher. So I put here in this slide some benefits of weight loss. Sorry to talk again about COVID, but I must do this. If we lose only 3% of the weight, we can reduce the risk to have COVID, like severe disease by COVID virus. And the other benefits, 5% reduce the risk of hypertension, improves fertility. For type 2 diabetes, we must lose around 7 to 10% of the weight to reduce the risk. Okay? So many metabolic benefits just with the weight loss. And it's not easy to weight loss. We can discuss a little bit more later on the other section, but unfortunately, I always explain to my patients, I don't have the perfect formula to lose weight. No one has. Every patient we must treat different. Okay, so the treatment of obesity must be very individualized. We must see where's the problem. Is the sedentarism? Is the food? Is the craving for sweets? For example, women, we crave a lot of chocolate and food and sweet things. Men, they eat more at night. After the dinner, they snack more until they go to sleep, for example. So every patient must have a different treatment, and nowadays there are some medications available to lose weight. Okay, once it's considered a disease. Well, here this slide, two things that I want to tell. First, about the inflammation again, so how to fight the inflammation. And as I explained in the previous slide, in the first slide, we have two types of inflammation. The acute, we consider this name is stress. Okay, so because now this name is stress in a couple of years become like very famous. Everyone has a burnout, stress. So what is the difference? Stress is something very, very acute. For example, I'm here and I receive a mail from my boss telling me that I must do a presentation for tomorrow. So this is very stress because I don't have time, that I must do many things. And our body starts producing some hormones to fight for this injury, which is like the email. And we start to release cortisol, adrenaline. Okay, it's the same idea of run and fight, you know, fly and fight. Or if we see a snake, for example, in the garden, we're gonna run. And we release these hormones. This is a stress, okay? Is the first picture here. Talking about the burnout, burnout is a chronic stress. So burnout, I put here like the job stress because it is more related, but burnout can be with not just stress, can be any kind of a relationship. So burnout is more chronic. It's like day by day, it takes months, take years to happen. And start when we have less identification of job. You know, we start to think like this, oh, maybe I'm not good enough for this job, or we start losing the interest in our job. Okay, so two types of kind of stress and how we fight with this stress. So I move to the next slide because this other picture is going to be here. So I put here some steps. That is my suggestions. Of course, I try to do, of course, for my own life. And we always try to do this daily. I always explain to my patients, no one has the happiest life ever, the perfect life. But if you try to do this daily, create a routine, we can fight this chronic disease. Okay. The first one, everyone knows that, it's like to eat well, health eating. And nowadays it's very difficult what it means like health eating, especially now, sustainable, like almonds milk. Oh my gosh, we don't have water enough to produce almonds milk, and there's so many things involved eating nowadays. Eating is a pleasure. We cannot miss this pleasure in the food. The food reaches our brain, we feel pleasure. But the health eating can prevent this chronic disease. So avoid the sugar drinks. Everyone knows that junk food. To beat this inflammation, we must calculate the fiber intake, the water intake. And it's so easy to do this right now. We have the technology to support us. Like there's available one app to show you and alarm you if you stay like more than half an hour without drinking any kind of water, for example. Like, it's time to walk now, or it's time to drink your water right now. So the first health eating. The last review Harvard did, there are available in the world 39 types of diet. So there's so many types of diet. Low carb, low fat, intermittent fasting is one type of diet. Okinawa from Japan, Mediterranean diet. So just a couple of examples. And what is the best diet? Is the question that I answer more. Many patients, they come to me and say, what is the best diet? Should I do intermittent fasting? Should I do low carb? And I always explain that there is no best diet. The best diet is the diet that you can do and you can keep it for a long term. But we can come back to this also in the question session. Type 2, exercise. And for exercise, I receive many patients, they say to me, Dr. Milena, I hate gym. Don't ask me to go to the gym because I hate the gym. No, doctor, I am overweight and these guys on the gym become like bodybuilders and they keep me looking. And my answer is very clear. Do whatever you like to do. If you want to do dance, if you want to do golf, swim, I don't know, we must do something pleasure so the brain can understand better that we don't need, like example, chocolate to find this pleasure. So we need to do exercise to improve immunity, lungs, heart, to have a weight loss. Patients who is in the weight loss program, they are recommended to do at least 300 minutes per week of exercise. Nowadays, we know how to count the steps. So what is the recommendation? And today I saw another study that the recommendation is 7 to 10,000 steps daily. So to prevent cardiovascular disease, to fight this inflammation, every time that we stay more sitting, the brain becomes like everything more slow, the metabolism becomes like slow. Okay? And for glucose, there is some studies that even 10, 15 minutes that you do a brisk walk with your dog, you can improve the glucose after the meal. So I'm not asking you to do like so many exercises. I don't want anyone to become like bodybuilder, but the minimum amount depends which chronic disease you have. Okay. For the weight, manage the weight. We must step and track yourself. Step on the weight scale. This is important to see which level, which is your target, if you're reaching your target. So don't be afraid to step on the scale. It's interesting to see, oh, I did well this weekend, or no, let me check, it's Monday, what I did in the weekend, it was like a mess. So it's important to monitor yourself, okay? The fourth step is very difficult, which is sleep. And I believe, especially this, after the pandemic, the situation after a sleep pattern get worse. There's no maximum and minimum amount, but what is the recommendation is 6 to 89 hours, but depends every patient. Okay, we know that if you sleep less than 5 hours, you have more risk to develop type 2 diabetes and weight gain. Snoring. When I talk about the snoring during the consultation, many patients, they make fun and say, doctor, my wife, she never complains, or she moved to another room. If you snore during the night, means that you have sleep apnea. And sleep apnea, you reduce your hormone, especially for men who snores during the night. They have a low testosterone. And testosterone is the male hormone. If you have a low testosterone, you feel fatigue in the next day. If we don't sleep well in the next day, if you go to supermarket, you tend to choose more caloric, more junk food if you had a terrible sleep night. And to sleep, of course, it's better, it's ideally, it's nice to have a nice environment. You know, every patient, everyone has the personal time to sleep. For example, my time to sleep is 9.5. So if someone call me like 11, forget about it. I will not answer. So respect this time to go to the bed. If your time is 11, 10.5, start to prepare yourself. Put a nice pajama, put an, fix your room, put less lights, take care with this mobile, because all the times we are connected, and the light of the mobile reduce the melatonin production. Okay? So these are some advices about the sleep. Number 5, it's about smoking, of course, and alcohol smoking are the 5 and the 6. We must limit it, and of course the alcohol intake, and for smoking, ideally is to stop completely. which is not easy because one more time is about, I'm sorry for this, it's about the brain. Sorry for that. Let me see what happened here.
It's okay, doctor.
Anyway.
I think we are towards the last of the session, so you can go ahead with your session.
Yes. Anyway, I'm gonna keep like this. So we are talking about smoking, and to talk a little bit about the smoking, some patients they say, Dr. Melina, I used to smoke like 5 and now I went to 3. This is not the good way. The idea to stop smoke is decide one day to stop completely, because if you still giving the smoking nicotine stimulation in the brain, it's going to be very more difficult to stop completely. Okay. And the alcohol intake is 1 drink per day for men and 2 drinks for women and 2 drinks for men. And later I can explain more what is this 1 drink, 2 drinks, because it depends of the beverage, like 1 beer or 1 gin is different. Okay? And the last one, which I think is the most difficult thing, especially for me, is how to say no, how we manage our time, how we must be available all the time. Then these things can contribute to increase our stress and increase our burnout. Mainly now that we have all these apps, technology, smartphones to be connected all the time. It's so many social medias like Instagram, WhatsApp. We must be answered like all the time. Sometimes if you don't answer this patient right now, or if this friend right now, oh my gosh, the patient is gonna be sad, my friend's gonna be sad. So it's especially I'm talking this for personal life, but everyone is the same, everyone is human is the same, and it's very tough. And I think we need to use the technology to track yourselves to help reach us better outcomes, but it's time to be disconnected and calm down. Otherwise, it's more hormones releasing the brain, like cortisol, adrenaline, which is gonna lead to more chronic inflammation. Okay. Well, I really hope that everyone like it, enjoy it, because sometimes I talk too much. I get very excited with this because it's my life. I have been treated diabetes since 2012, and I'm open all years for the questions. Thank you so much.
So, Doc, I can read out the question for you. So the
Yes,
first
it's gonna be
question
great.
is, yeah. So the first question is, what is the best remedy for abdominal obesity?
Yes, as I told you before, I don't have, no one has, okay, the perfect formula. We must consider some things. Everyone who has this visceral tissue, this fat surround the belly, surround the liver, is considered overweight or obese. So we must focus on the lifestyle treatment. We must check how is going the food, how is going the cravings for sweets. If it's women, how are the periods? Because can be related. I don't know if it's a women who did this question, can be related with PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndromes. Okay? Regarding type of diet, we know that diets which contains low carb in 6 months trend to be more effective to lose weight. Compare all the types of diets. If you do low carb diet, you can improve more this visceral tissue here. And of course, as I told you, the amount of exercise, we must have a good night of sleep. We must check the genetic thing. Some patients, they come here, like the mother, the grandmother, everyone is obese. So we have some genetic causes of the obesity. And I'm sorry, there are some medications available to lose weight nowadays. Okay, at least in Dubai, for example, where we are now, we have at least 3 medications available to help the patient to suppress the appetite, to reduce the food, intake. Regarding weight loss, they didn't want us to compare. One patient was just concentrating the diet, and the other patient did no diet but a lot of exercise. And at the end, who lost more? Who lost more the weight? Who concentrate more in the food? So to have weight loss, it's more important to be aware of the food than exercise. Exercise can help you to keep the weight that you lost. But to lose weight quickly is the food, is the amount, the calories per day that must be reduced.
So
Did I
doctor,
answer?
the next question, yeah, absolutely. So doctor, the next question is related to the same topic. When you spoke about diet or the food which are helpful to lose weight, which is the ideal food or diet plans for losing weight? Is keto diet safe for losing weight?
Excellent question. Yes, I have many patients on keto diet, okay? Keto diet is safe. There's some evidence, especially for type 2 diabetes, to reduce insulin resistance and for epilepsy also. So keto diet is safe, must be supervised with dietitian, the physician, and some patients need some supplementation, for example, with potassium, magnesium, so must be supervised, with the whole team, with a multidisciplinary team, but it's safe. There's a lot of evidence about reducing glucose levels, so for type 2 diabetes, for obesity, for overweight. At the beginning, it's not easy to do a keto diet because when you reduce the carbohydrates, we feel a little bit fatigue, headache, bad mood. It's very common. Any kind of restricted diet, the body can suffer some side effects. For the keto diet, where the more common are like a headache, bad mood, and the immunity can reduce a little bit. But after 2 weeks, then the body starting producing ketones, you feel good, the side effects disappear. I have one patient with 2 years with keto diet, and she did great, 2 years. But one more time, the best diet is the diet that suits for you. I will give another example. Sorry, give like these patients as example, but I prefer to become like more real because it is the real. I have one patient, he's athlete, he's like Ironman. And he came to me because he wants to do anti-aging. Now it's common. Everyone wants to be less old. Everyone want to be younger. And this study in Harvard, they found out that Okinawa from Japan, because everyone knows Okinawa people there in Japan, they live like 130 years old. So when we check about the Okinawa diet, there are 5 cups of jasmine tea, and which is considered an aging diet. But understand one point. We don't know yet if the anti-aging diet is just because of the patient drinks 5 cups of jasmine tea per day, or because in Okinawa, it's at midday, they hug the tree, they don't have any stress, there's no traffic, there's no any kind of violence. So it's a couple of things that are involved. This is the lifestyle. What do we call this lifestyle? It's not just one thing. It's not just the jasmine tea. No. So I told to this patient from Ironman, okay, let's start to do the jasmine tea. Might help. We don't have so many evidence, but we can try. And the patient is doing well with 5 cups of jasmine tea. But it's not everyone who gonna have the 5 cups of jasmine tea. So what can fit for you cannot fit for your cousin, for your husband, for example. We must try to understand the best diet is the diet that we can keep in a long term. But regarding evidence, low carb and keto diet, there are good evidence to reduce the weight and to reduce the insulin resistance, which is considered this visceral tissue surrounding the belly. It's okay?
Yes. So it's a long question, Doc. Some in YouTube claim that their diabetics reversed and weight reduced because they took Herbalife health drink for 3 to 4 months twice a day. What is your opinion on Herbalife? Some in YouTube claim that some malt or diet reversed their diabetics. What's your opinion? So it's two questions, Doc.
No, I think I got. Let me try to answer this. We have a couple of minutes. First, is it possible to into remission of type 2 diabetes? Yes, it is. Okay, we don't use the word cure. We use the word into remission. So, if the cause of type 2 diabetes is the weight, is the overweight, or the obesity, once this patient becomes normal weight, the type 2 can be into remission. This is very important. Different for type 1. Type 1, there is no remission. There is control. We consider type 2 diabetes into remission after a couple of years without no medication. So the patient, for example, start with the medication, start to lose weight, do any kind of restricted diet, the weight dropped, and the patient into remission of diabetes. The pancreas is starting producing insulin normal again. There is no more insulin resistance, and this patient is solved of type 2 diabetes, is considered into remission, must be monitored every year, every 6 months. Okay? Regarding herbal products, as I understood is the question. As I told you, there are a couple of evidence. We'll give an example. Today, there's one study that I think is Lancet about some types of tea that can reduce in 17% the risk of develop type 2 diabetes. It was like green tea, one of them. The others is, I can memorize the names, but if you want, someone can give me one, I can give my contact and I can forward the study. There's some studies also about the cucumber. They put a cucumber in the water. They let the cucumber sleep in the night, and in the next day they drink the cucumber water. But in my opinion, it's not just the cucumber water. It's like a cup of things. Another thing that I will give an example. One patient come to me saying, Dr. Milena, every morning I have my water with lemon. It's fine. I say, okay, it's fine. There's some evidence. No, but I cannot tell to the patient there's no evidence that he cannot take the lemon with water. Because what? In that day, the patient will wake up, have the water with the lemon. From that time, during the whole day, he will do better decisions about his life. He'll eat better, he'll do more exercise, and he can just say, oh, is that my water with lemon? But once he takes the water, he gonna be more aware about his health, and he gonna choose good the decisions during the day. Okay, so I think it's a couple of things that are involved, not just, I'm not against, which there is some evidence, as I told you, the jasmine tea, the green tea, I'm for it, but I cannot, for example, tell you that I replaced medication for diabetes and I say to the patient, you stopped medication for type 2 diabetes, let's just concentrate on the tea. No, this is wrong.
Doc, There's a question, I'm not sure if it is related to our topic. How
Okay.
can we increase testosterone?
No, it's fine. I am endocrinologist, so I'm a specialist in testosterone. So as I told you, testosterone is a male hormone. Women, we don't have testosterone. We have a little bit of testosterone, but it's a male hormone. So testosterone is the male hormone which produces happiness, wellness, well-being, plus sexual drive, morning erections, okay? These are signs that the testosterone is okay. If you are obese or overweight or you snore, you have low testosterone. So the idea is to lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, you can boost your testosterone. There's some studies also with weightlifting can boost your testosterone. But if you're overweight or obese, we must focus on the weight loss to rise the testosterone level and treat the sleep apnea. If you snore at night, if you don't breathe well, in the next day you feel fatigue, you are just reading a book and you sleep, this is also can be a sign of low testosterone.
Noted, Doc. Doc, next question is, can you suggest any food or fruit for weight loss?
Some fruit, it's fruits, right?
Food or fruits?
Okay, some fruits which contains less sugar and less calories. For example, berries, strawberries, they are in the diet. Or against, for example, banana, mango. This who is in a program for weight loss, we never put banana or mango. These fruits are very high calorie and high sugar. We just prescribe, for example, banana if you're gonna run a marathon. If you athlete, if you're gonna be in a soccer match, you can eat banana. So
Doctor,
fruit with
you got disconnected.
Now I'm okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Please bear with us. We are trying to contact Doc. I think you got disconnected.
It's a pity.
It's okay, Doc. So you were talking about something about banana.
Yes, now I'm back.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was talking about bananas. For the banana is very high in sugar, high in calories. So I just prescribe one patient, and I recommend my dietitian to prescribe banana if the patient goes run a marathon, if he's Ironman or athlete. But if you are in a weight loss program, we always prefer pears like papaya, berries, strawberries, okay? Fruits with low calories. And the food, if you are searching for weight loss, the most important thing to understand is the amount of food must be reduced in the day, during the whole day. I cannot let you guys without this thought that, oh, from tomorrow, I'm going to stop eating hamburger. I'm going to eat nuts the whole day. No, this is not sustainable. No one can maintain this. The way that we lose weight is reducing the portion size. I know this part of the world, for example, India, Philippines, South Asia, the rice is very important. I have patients from India, which I love them. They are always so kind and they do whatever I ask them, but the rice is so important thing for them. It's culture, remembers their home, remembers their mother. But once you reduce the rice, the glucose becomes better in the next day. So to avoid this kind of carbohydrates, the pasta, the rice can also improve the sugar and the weight quicker than other type of diet.
Does PCOD leads to obesity or vice versa?
Excellent question. It's totally related. The treatment for PCOS is to focus on the weight loss. We don't know yet who came first. It was obesity or PCOS. It's like the chicken and egg. But the treatment of PCOS is weight loss, weight loss. Many patients after the weight loss, the periods become normal again, the skin becomes better. So it's related with insulin resistance, obesity, and overweight.
Know that I have inflammation in my body. Is there any specific sign that I can make out that I am having an inflammation?
Yeah, for chronic inflammation, especially type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, there's a sign, we call this acanthosis nigricans, becomes a little bit dark here in the neck, in the bikini area, and under the arms. Even some patients, they think this is kind of dirty. They start to clean. So this darkness here is related to insulin resistance, is one our sign that we have inflammation. For PCOS, for example, which is another kind of inflammation, we have a more oil hair, oil skin, acne. It's another sign of inflammation.
Next question is type 2 diabetes can also come to people who have good weight and walking a lot. The age a reason in this case?
Sorry, do you mind repeat if it's type 2 diabetes? Let me see if I understand. So if type 2 diabetes can be for the normal weight?
Yeah, so the question is, doc, that type 2 diabetes can also be seen in someone who may manage a good weight and they walk a lot, exercise a lot. So is age a factor to have type 2 diabetes?
Yes. Can be genetic. There's one type of diabetes I didn't mention because it's very specific. It's called MODY. MODY is when 3 generations of the family, they have diabetes. So it's genetic one. Is genetic problem inside the pancreas, and usually these patients, they are normal weight. Okay, so this one type of diabetes is called MODY. And the second one is another type of diabetes, is called latent autoimmune disease, which is autoimmune disease also. It's kind of similar to type 1. We call this type 1.5, and the patients are normal weight. So there are more 2 types apart for type 1 and type 2. This type 1.5 or the genetic called MODY, the patients are normal weight.
The question is not. The question is not a very common question, doc. Next is how to increase 5 kg weight without increasing belly fat for a diabetic person.
To focus on the fiber, to focus on the protein amount. For example, if you do exercise, everyone who does exercise, after 2 hours after the gym, after your workout, you must have a protein intake. You must have some, depends, eggs, tofu, any kind of protein and fiber. You can increase your muscles. You can build more your muscles. We call this lean fat. Lean mass against to fat mass. So we have 2 types of mass in our body, the fat mass and the lean mass. And to build more fat, lean instead of fat, we must focus on the fiber, oats and nuts, and to build more the muscles, to focus on the protein intake. For this reason, some patients, for example, these people who does exercise, they have a whey protein, which is like the powder, the protein powder. After gym, in 2 hours after gym, we must have a protein intake. Can be eggs, can be 2 eggs, can be 1 breast chicken. No matter, but must have rise the protein intake.
So the next question is, Doc, any over-the-counter medicine which is safer for aiding healthy weight loss, which you can recommend?
As I told you, here in Dubai, you have 3 types of medications to lose weight. Okay, it's necessary consultation, blood test, monitorization, and we have Saxenda, which is available. We have Senical, it's available. We have Contravi. We have these 3 types of medications. Some medications suppress more the appetite inside the gut, inside the stomach. Other medications, for example, Senical, just pass out the fat in the poops. And Contravi is a very controlled medication to suppress the appetite inside the brain.
Doc, how healthy are these medicines?
Let me finalize. We have more 5 minutes, and this question, I think, is the most important question that we discussed today. Thank you for all these questions. I really hope that you enjoy, because if it's possible, I stay here with you the whole afternoon. As I told you, obesity, weight loss is a disease, okay? All the medications can cause side effects. Even Panadol can cause liver failure. So this word heavy is wrong thought. We cannot think with a medication is light or heavy. There is a medications for treat some disease. We have medications to treat headache, to treat obesity, to treat hypertension, and for weight loss, there are many medications which can cause different side effects, but we must put on balance with the benefits and the risks, the side effects. So there is no heavy medication. There are medications which are allowed, permitted, with studies that must be taken in 1 month, in 1 year, depends. Every patient is different. But side effects, as I understood for this heavy as side effects, we can have side effects with so many medications. For the obesity treatment, for example, some medications, they cause a little bit of nausea. For example, Saxenda is a medication which is like my main prescription nowadays is Saxenda, because suppress the appetite, but can cause some side effects. Nausea is one of the side effects. Okay? But the patient comes, I lost 3 kilos in one month, and start to trigger the process. So for this patient, the benefits are higher than the side effect, which is very easily manageable, like nausea.
Quickly, I will read out a few more questions. The first question is, what are your thoughts on fasting for weight loss?
You mean, I think the person, I mean, intermittent fasting?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Also, there is some evidence that then later someone can contact me. I can show all the evidence in this hardware study. There are many types of intermittent fasting, okay? There's one type of restricted time, for example, 14, 10, 16, 8, or 2 alternative days. The patient does 1 day entirely fasting and the other day eating normal, the other day entire fasting. So there's so many types of intermittent fasting. Usually men, they respond quite better than women, but I have patients also, both genders, they do this and they stay well, they lose weight. But must be something that you can keep it. Again, sorry to repeat the same thing. For example, it's not possible to do 5 days of intermittent fasting and the other day, I have a party, so no, today I'm not doing intermittent fasting. So this is not right, because you're gonna block it. You're gonna mess all the way that your body is trying to weight loss. So must be something very consistent, like continuous. But there's some evidences to weight loss. For example, Ramadan. Ramadan is one type of intermittent fasting, okay? Is in the culture is one type of, they restrict the time that they are eating. And I have half of my staff, they do the fasting during the Ramadan, they lose weight. When the Ramadan finish, the weight come back. Because what? Because they don't keep it the process. But there are some evidences to weight loss, and it's safe. We just need to take care about the hydration, not to be without a water intake. But I have some patients, we start with 10, 14. So 10 hours is the window to eat. Then we move it to 8 hours eating and try to keep 8, 16. No more questions? Oh my gosh, we have 1 minute more.
Yeah, so Doc, there is two more questions actually.
Okay, let's
there
go.
a
Let's do.
Is there a relationship between obesity and epilepsy?
There's some evidence about epilepsy, asthma, cancer, okay? And as I told you, for diet, low carb diet and keto diet, there's some evidences to improve the epilepsy. Once you are obese, you are overweight, you don't sleep well, you can trigger some of these epilepsy crises, especially during the night time. So if you lose weight, you reduce many types of comorbidity, including epilepsy crisis.
Doc, the next one is a patient of 16 years suffering from type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
Always follows a strict diet, keeping carbs very low. So the person is asking, do you agree intake of more insulin will cause weight gain? If yes, how can we control or reduce weight?
This is the most complex question, and I must answer this in 40 minutes, but I'm trying to do this in 2. Type 1 diabetes, the treatment, as I told you, is insulin, okay? Every time, every kind of food the patient will have, he must do his insulin, okay? So depends of the portion and the calories and the carbs, the carbohydrates, it's more or less insulin. So type 1 diabetes must be treated with 2 types of insulin. One is called basal. It's one insulin that the patient puts once per day only, which is called the basal, and lasts 24 hours. And the quick one is a rapid insulin, is to cover the meals. Okay? So every time, 10 minutes before the meal, the patient must put some amount of insulin to cover the breakfast, the lunch, the snack, the dinner. If this food contains more carbohydrates, I'm gonna eat a mango or banana or a pasta. Sometimes they must put 10, 12 units of this quick insulin. If the patient just gonna have tuna salad or a breast chicken, they even sometimes they don't put, or they put very less, for example, 2-3 units to cover the protein, because the protein, we don't need too much insulin. Carbohydrates, we need much more insulin. So many patients with type 1, they are afraid to have more carbs, or they it's just fear, like, or lack of information, lack of education. They avoid carbohydrates to use less insulin. But every meal which contains carbohydrates, the patient must use a quick insulin. This is the best way to control the glucose levels. If you're gonna eat a pasta, is different, the amount of insulin that you're gonna put for just 2 eggs, for example. And this amount is during the consultation with me, with the diabetes educator, with the dietitian. We call this carbohydrates counting to adjust the insulin treatment. I think I answer quite good. If it's not, please feel free to contact me. I can give my email to everyone, my WhatsApp, there's no problem.
Absolutely. And also, so just wanted to thank you, Doc, for joining for this session. It was a really informative session. Diabetes is something where we see majority of our claims coming from when we look at the chronic conditions. And we are looking forward to launch the diabetes control program and obesity control program, the subscription model with GluCare. It's our privilege to work with you closely, and
it's gonna be a pleasure.
So we hope our members are able to utilize the benefit of this subscription model in reducing the weight, lower down their diabetes level values. So thank you everyone for joining this session. Hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks, Dr. Milena, for the session.
Thank you again, and hopefully we can do another one longer, okay?
Absolutely, because when we see the number of questions pouring in, I'm sure how much people are interested to know about it.
Yes, I'm sorry, I still have patients until 8 o'clock, so otherwise I will be here the whole afternoon, but we can do another day. Thanks for having me here, and you can share my email to everyone, or I will be here in the clinic all years to everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you.
Have a nice day.
Bye, you too.